Almost everything you believe about food came from somebody else. Not from your parents, and not from your doctor. They only passed it on. Someone taught them that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Someone taught them to fear egg yolks. Someone taught them that eating after 6 makes you fat. Nobody is born believing those things, and every food rule has an origin. One came from a rabbit. One is sold to you fresh every January. One is just something people repeated until it sounded true. One was written by a copywriter, and one came from a check. Not a metaphor, an actual payment. Someone paid to change what millions of people believed about food, and for almost 50 years, nobody knew. Today, we're going back to where each one began. Subscribe now. By the end of this video, you'll know which food rule was actually bought and paid for, and which one you'll still hear repeated tomorrow morning. For decades, people feared one food more than almost any other: eggs. Not because they were fried, not because of the protein, because of cholesterol. By 1968, the American Heart Association had an official recommendation of no more than 3 egg yolks a week. Think about how strange that is. Not eat less processed food, not reduce sugar, but one single ingredient. The witness was a rabbit. Back in 1913, a Russian scientist fed rabbits pure cholesterol, and their arteries filled with plaque. The experiment worked, the conclusion didn't. Because rabbits are herbivores, in the wild they never eat cholesterol, not once, and their bodies were never built to process it. Imagine proving that steak is toxic by feeding kilograms of it to a horse. We judged eggs using an animal built to fail the test. Human biology works differently. Most of the cholesterol in your blood never came from breakfast. Your liver made it. And when more cholesterol arrives through food, your liver usually makes less. It isn't filling a bucket, it's adjusting a thermostat. As better human studies accumulated, the rule slowly collapsed. In 2015, the committee behind the American Dietary Guidelines quietly removed the cholesterol limit, and 4 years later, the American Heart Association admitted there wasn't a useful universal number anymore. Some people really do respond more strongly to dietary cholesterol, but the rule that frightened nearly everyone started with a rabbit. But that wasn't the one that was bought. A bad assumption is free. Anyone can make one. The next belief costs money every year, and somebody is collecting it. Detox is the only industry that survives by convincing healthy people their organs don't work, and it earns billions every year. The idea is simple. Every day, toxins build up inside your body, from food, from the air, from everything around you, and somewhere there's a drink that can wash them all away. It's a beautiful story with one problem. That job already belongs to your liver. That's literally why it's there. Every second of every day, it pulls unwanted chemicals out of your blood, changes them, makes them safer, then hands them to your kidneys. And your kidneys filter your entire blood supply again and again, whether you bought a green juice or not. So, if detox drinks are removing your toxins, what exactly have your liver and kidneys been doing all this time? But here's where the story turns. Almost every detox program is built around juice, and juice is simply fruit with the fiber removed. The fiber is what moves waste through your gut and what feeds the bacteria living inside you. So, you buy a product that promises to clean your body, and the very first thing it removes is the part already helping your body clean itself. If you enjoy the taste, blend it instead. Same fruit, same glass, and the fiber stays.
Still not the one.
2 beliefs, Two completely different origins, a failed scientific assumption, and a business built on a beautiful story. But the next rule wasn't created by a company, and it wasn't created by scientists either. It spread because ordinary people repeated it generation after generation, with nothing behind it at all. Which is exactly what makes what happened next so strange. Your fat cells have no idea what time it is. 6 o'clock means nothing to a body that goes to bed at 2 in the morning. So the rule you've heard your entire life, don't eat after 6, everything after that goes straight to fat, should be nonsense. Case closed. Then why did Harvard find that eating later changes how hungry you get? Start with where this rule came from, because it's the only one in today's video that nobody sold you. No advertising campaign, no corporation, no scientific journal. Just something people repeated until it became common sense, which is why nobody bothered to test it for decades. When researchers finally did in 2022, they did it properly. Same people, same meals, same calories, same sleep, same light. They changed only one thing: the clock. Dinner moved about 4 hours later. People became hungrier even though they ate exactly the same amount of food. The hormones that tell your brain to stop eating shifted, and their bodies burned slightly less energy. Then, researchers looked inside the fat tissue itself, where genes had shifted away from releasing fat and toward storing it. So the old rule wasn't completely wrong, it just picked the wrong number. It was never about 6 o'clock. It's about your evening, not the clocks. Finish eating a few hours before your own bedtime, whether that's 10 at night or 2 in the morning. And now, the receipt. This one is the only story with a paper trail. Not a theory, not a suspicion, but real documents, real payments, real names. This is the moment where nutrition stopped being just science and became business. For decades, one message dominated supermarket shelves. Fat makes you fat. Fat clogs your arteries. Choose the low-fat version. That message changed what millions of families bought every week. Go back to the 1960s. Two scientists were asking the same question. Why are so many people dying from heart disease? One blamed sugar. One blamed fat. They couldn't both be right. Then, one side quietly hired Harvard. In 1965, a trade organization representing the sugar industry paid researchers there roughly $50,000 in today's money. Not to run an experiment, to review the evidence. Before a single word was written, the industry had already defined the goal. It suggested which studies should be discussed, and it reviewed the drafts before publication. Then, in 1967, the review appeared in one of the world's most respected medical journals, and its conclusion was simple. Stop worrying about sugar, focus on fat. And remember the advice you heard at the start of this video. 3 egg yolks a week, watch your cholesterol? That landed the following year. The funding wasn't mentioned, and it didn't have to be. Back then, the journal didn't require scientists to reveal who paid them. And that's where the story should have ended. But for almost 50 years, nobody knew, until a researcher began digging through the sugar industry's own internal archives. Letters, memos, invoices, drafts. In 2016, she published what she found. Now, let's be precise. There is no evidence the industry wrote the paper, only that it paid for it, set its goal, shaped what went in, and read it before the public ever could. And then it got bigger. Food companies rushed to remove fat from everything: yogurt, cookies, salad dressings, ready meals. But fat carries flavor, and when you take it away, people stop buying the product. So manufacturers replaced it with sugar. The industry that paid to move the spotlight ended up standing in the dark. And be careful here, because this is where it gets simplified. Fat wasn't innocent. Sugar wasn't innocent either. The problem was pretending only one of them mattered.
So that was the one that was bought. $50,000, 50 years of silence, an entire industry rearranged around it. Which makes the last one strange, because it cost almost nothing. And it is the only one you will hear again tomorrow morning. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It sounds scientific, obvious, even old. It isn't. That sentence has an author. In 1944, an American cereal company wanted to sell more breakfast cereal. So it launched one of the biggest nutrition campaigns in history, and radio stations across the country repeated the same line. Nutrition experts say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Read that again. Not research shows. Not clinical trials found. Experts say. That sentence sold billions of bowls of cereal. Now here's the part people usually get wrong. This doesn't mean breakfast is unhealthy or even unnecessary. It means the slogan became popular long before anyone properly tested the idea. Years afterwards, researchers finally did, randomly assigning breakfast instead of asking people what they usually ate. One group ate it, the other skipped it. If breakfast really had some unique metabolic magic, this is where it should have appeared. It didn't. The people eating breakfast didn't lose more weight, and they usually took in slightly more calories over the whole day. The campaign wasn't selling mornings. It was selling what filled the bowl. And here is why this one is last. The sugar review took $50,000 and 50 years to come apart. This one took a slogan. It was never defended in a journal, never argued over by scientists, never worth unpicking. It just got repeated by people who loved you until it sounded like something we had always known. So what do we do with all of this? Science wasn't the villain here. Science correcting itself is exactly how science is supposed to work. Advertising wasn't always the villain either. The real danger is believing a food rule without ever asking who benefited from it. So be careful with rules that sound too simple, especially when they tell you to fear one specific food. Real nutrition almost never works that way. And when a package proudly tells you what it removed, turn it over and find out what replaced it. 5 beliefs, 5 different origins, and every single one found its way into your kitchen. So the next time a nutrition rule sounds too obvious to question, don't ask whether it's popular. Ask where it came from and who benefited from repeating it. Because every belief has an origin, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. If this video changed even one thing on your plate, subscribe. That's what this channel is for, finding out where nutrition advice really comes from.